Today our guest speaker is Margarita Obraztsova. She's one of the first volunteers from the group to actually do it.
So, hi everybody. I guess I have shortly introduced myself already, but again, for those who haven't heard, I am a web developer. Recently, this October, I decided to establish my own toiminimi in Finland because I wanted to work as a freelancer in Finland legally. And this is the main reason why I started thinking about it. I've worked as a freelancer for companies like Reactor and Helsinki Sanomat. I also work full-time for the company called Farazon AB as a front-end developer. So yeah, the main thing that kind of drew me to start digging into how to set up a tominimi was how do I actually work as a freelancer here legally. Okay, our agenda is going to include 6 core points. So these are the forms of business enterprise in Finland according to the official manual from Enterprise Finland issued for 2015. Why you should be a sole trader. So basically the reasons why you should open toiminimi, required registration, what kind of documents you have to provide them with, and we're going to go through them in the end of the presentation and actually fill the form. Next is bookkeeping for sole trader. There is some kind of perks if you're working as your own boss. Taxation. I'm going to tell you I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to go very deeply into that. I'm just going to talk about the specific taxation that I'm eligible to, and you are basically, because you're going to do the same hopefully in the future. And then we're actually going to fill the form and go through it. So the forms of the enterprise in Finland are sole trader, general partnership, limited partnership, limited company, and cooperative. I'm not going to talk a lot about the difference in between them. I'm just going to say that sole trader is the easiest one to open in Finland because it only requires you to fill the U3 blank and provide with the personal data form. Also, you have to make the prepayment, not actually the prepayment, I think it's more called the processing payment, which is 110 euros. And yeah, you can basically start working immediately afterwards. So next. So the reasons why I figured out there is 3 major ones. So the first one is small-scale family businesses. It's ideal if you just want to have some kind of little nice thing with your family, with very little of the paperwork. Of course, just one person can set up the company, but you can work all together on it. If you want to legally work in Finland as a freelancer, this is the option for you. Then working in some specific license fields as self-employed individual is also one of the options if you want to establish a toiminimi. And there is more benefits according to the sources that I have accessed, and this is really very easy thing to do. It does not require you to have any business plan in Finland. Basically, it does not require you to provide them with any information about how you're going to run your business. In other cases, whether it's cooperative or limited company, people are going to actually go through your business plan and see what kind of account you're going to have, and lots of the paperwork that I have no idea how to do. Here you don't have to do it unless you're a non-EEA citizen. Non-EEA citizen is somebody who lives outside of the European Economic Area. If you are and you don't have any residence permit in Finland, then you would actually go through all that paperwork, and then it's much more daunting task to do. Basically, if you live outside of the European Economic Area for some reason, you have to first of all provide the Ministry of Economy with information about what kind of business you are going to run, business plan, any engagement in trade in Europe, and lots of paperwork again to do. If you are residing in Finland, if you have a residence permit, or if you're Finn, you don't have to do anything out of that. Next, entrepreneur is personally liable for all the business losses and all the profit. Since you don't have any shareholders, since you don't have any investors, probably you don't have to if you're just working on your own. You're not really sharing your money with anybody. Your money is what you have earned. The next thing is that you don't have to have the board of directors or managing director. The audits are not really required because the scale of your profit is not going to be that big. Then non-compulsory money investments. Again, you don't have to show any kind of preparation to be an investor or any kind of, you don't have to invest money in that. You can just start. Nobody's going to ask you if you have money to actually run your business. Everything that you're investing is your own investment. Or you can also find an investor to do it. It's up to you. One more perk is that the money that you are having on your company account, you just basically can transfer them to your own account as your own profit, and nobody's going to ask why has it happened. Next slide, please. There is two types of sole trader. There is professional and the trader. And I'm personally a professional. And the difference in between them is very, very simple. The first professional sole trader is the one who has the right to use one entry bookkeeping or single entry bookkeeping, which basically means he only has to provide the basic information about the profit of the company and the expenses of the company, not more than that. Then just basically all the bookkeeping processes become much simpler. And the trader is somebody who actually would like to employ people to work for him, who need an external manpower to help out with doing the company. So basically the professional is somebody who is just doing the business on his own, like me, for example, a web developer who is just providing with the IT consultancy in the companies, or the trader who can do much more things, but again, he's more liable to it. Yeah, so the business information system in Finland is, again, I have something to compare it to, and it's very, very well established and simple. And if you want to open your own company, you have to register in all of those aforementioned organizations. And the good news is that you just have to fill one single form to do everything at once. Basically, they're going to add you to the trade register in a couple of days. They're going to assign you with the company business ID. Yes, and maybe a couple of weeks later, you're going to find out that you're already in the VAT register, prepayment register, if you want to employ people in the employee register, and so on and so forth. So no headache here. The main information that they are going to provide you upon your registration are going to be your business ID. You have to come up with the unique name for your company, and you have to provide them with the line of business. Highly recommended is to actually mention a very, very specific area that you're going to be working with. The reason why is that actually tax office requires it. Like, you know what kind of taxation they're going to charge from in the future. Of course, you can also mention general commercial activities, which basically means I'm gonna do anything, but then it's quite, I wouldn't say it's very handy, because in that case you'd have to separately inform the tax office about your actual areas of work, and that's not really common in here, I guess. Then about the name, there is actually a very interesting thing. You can actually have more than one name for your company. So how it works is, let's say you have a company that does catering and cleaning services. You can have one official name for the entire company, but you can separate the catering and the cleaning services with the auxiliary name. So basically, you're doing two different types of businesses. You have one business ID, but you have two names for two different areas that you're working with. Again, you would have to mention every of the name that the company has in the contracts that you are signing. Bookkeeping. It might be outsourced, and I have surprisingly found quite lots of companies that do that for you. You can basically outsource everything and just provide them with the invoices, and as far as they promise, they're gonna track all the information without you being bothered about it. I do not use these services since I do not have that big turnover, since I have the deals and they last for like 3 months, and this is basically one contract, so I do not need to. But there is this opportunity if you know that your turnover is going to be crazy and you won't have time to track all your expenses and taxation and stuff, so that's a really good thing. Then, as a sole trader professional, you have to basically have you're required actually to mention certain things. The first one is your accounting period must be 1 year, always. Then it must be 1 calendar year, which means it's from the 1st of January to the end of December every year. And you're not appointed to audit of any kind unless you're earning this amount of money, which is on the screen, and I don't know how on earth you can earn it in 1 year, but yeah. Anyways, this is quite handy, and when you're filling the blank for the first time, you will think, okay, how do I actually make the accounting year 1 calendar year? Because, for example, I was opening my company in autumn, right? So the answer is that your first accounting year can be more than 12 months. It can be more than 12 months and not more than 18 months. So something in between that. So yeah, it can be longer, there is no problem in that, but that's the first year. In the end of the year, you're gonna submit all of the information from your accounting, like what kind of profit you have, all the expenses. They're gonna recalculate whether you have paid too much or too little tax. It's quite simple. Income taxation and VAT are 2 separate things. I don't know, but some people, for some reason, thought that they are the same. No, they are not. So basically, VAT is the value-added tax, and income taxation is the pre-tax that you are paying before you have earned anything. That you are paying based on the estimated amount of the income that you were planning to earn in the first year. Now there is a trick, because some companies, like me for example, are sole traders and they're professionals and they're not earning lots of money, and there is a very nice thing about it. Usually, in the normal situation, when you have a company, there is 2 separate income taxes. The first one is the capital income that you have to pay tax for, and there is earned income. And in case if you are sole trader professional, you can actually count almost all of your income as the earned income and pay a tax on that, which is around 20%. And I'm gonna give you a tip. You don't have to actually worry about it, because once you have been added to the tax register, they're gonna send you nice papers in like a week that are gonna say, okay, these are the accounts, this is how frequently you have to pay your taxes, this is how much taxes you have to pay right now. So basically, okay, good. So you don't have to worry about it. This is a quote from the official guide that says that, yeah, there is an income tax that is paid in advance, and then VAT that is paid, well, monthly, but I would say it's paid upon the service. So basically, every time I contract my customer, I pay the VAT from the salary that he pays me per project. The normal VAT is 24%, and for catering services, it's much less. If you have a restaurant, it's 10%, and there is some more exception from that depending on your industry.
It's the main idea over there with the VAT that you pay the tax for the services that you provide. So essentially, if you ask somebody to pay you money, you add their 8%, 24% or whatever it is, as long as the client who pays you the money is located in Finland as well. Because if the person, for example, located in, let's say, Germany, the whole transaction goes without tax. So select your clients very carefully.
So yeah, tax prepayment register, this is also a very important thing. You have to be really disciplined with paying your taxes, because you can easily be deleted from the register if you neglect your tax payments, which is not nice. Some people actually prefer not to be added to this prepayment register because they don't want to pay the money in advance, since they're not sure about how the income is going to go. They pay it later in the end of accounting year. I would say this is a good option if you have really precisely estimated how much you're going to earn per year. If you're not sure if you're going to earn a little bit more, then you have to pay back what you haven't paid. If you have earned less, they're going to return that to you, so you're not really risking. Then, as I said already, there is earned income, which is obligatory. Basically, all the income that you have, you can call it earned income as a sole trader. And there is capital income that is counted as a part of your net liabilities and net profit, and I don't know how to count that. Next slide.
Sorry, I'll add here, if you are not registered in the prepayment register, large corporations usually will not contract you, period. Since that means that they have to do a lot of extra work, and when you are in the register or prepayment register, that means that you take on the liability of paying your own taxes. So usually, even though it might be a bit more hassle to make sure that you pay them yourself, it's usually the better way going forward, since you won't lose clients due to that. Sorry.
Thank you. I didn't know that that's a good thing. So yeah, there is a warning that I have told you about already. They prefer not to be registered. I don't know, I think this is a really handy system personally. I think it's really good, especially if you're not going to earn more than a certain amount of money, which I think is around 20,000 euros per year. If you're doing it as a part-time freelance, I would say that's a really good thing, because then you would actually get a nice discount, as you would actually have to do it much less. In my case, my income has been calculated to be so little that I only have to pay it once in 3 months. And actually, taxation office decides how often you have to pay it upon your profit estimate. Next. So yeah, those are the exceptions that I have told you about. If the enterprise's net sales do not exceed 5,000 in a calendar year, VAT tax, prepayment, employer social security contributions, blah, 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 can be paid in quarterly installments, once every 3 months. So that was my case. And actually my case was also that my income does not exceed 25,000 euros. So I can technically pay VAT just once a year, but I'm doing it per transaction, just handier. Yeah, so the VAT is, as I said, is 24. The company is supposed not to be liable for the VAT if its earnings do not exceed 8,500. I am liable, and everybody who is providing with any services is liable for the VAT. My personal opinion, pay the VAT even if you think that you're not going to earn more than this money, because if you do, then you would actually have to pay everything. If you earn like 100 euros more, you actually have to pay all the VAT you haven't paid per year.
Yeah, that's in a sense incorrect. So what you're doing, if you don't register for the VAT registry, is that you don't have to add VAT on your invoices. So you can sell your products or services or whatever you are selling without VAT, so VAT 0. sorry, not VAT 0, but actually without VAT. And it's
Well, it actually says VAT 0 when you're adding the point to the plan. For example, in some accounting systems, like I'm using Holby.com, and every time there is an invoice, you actually have to mention the amount of the VAT. It's 0, but it's still, there is this kind of graph.
Yeah, sure, but VAT 0 and then without VAT are two different things, legally speaking. But yeah, I understand. But if you do 8,600 euros, you would actually pay VAT only for the 100 euros. So this is lower threshold. Depending on your services and your clients, most corporations are able to pass on the VAT. So for corporations, like if you're working for Raptor, they won't care if you have VAT on your invoice. But if your customer is a like normal person, they won't be able to take off the VAT in their taxation. So there you actually are able to provide 24% cheaper service if you sell under that limit per year. That said, if you register for the VAT registry and, for example, buy yourself a computer or whatever, you are able to deduct the VAT that you paid for your purchases from your sales. So that's definitely a reason why you might want to be interested in being registered in the VAT registry, even though you don't sell for 8,500 euros. So if your clients are corporations and if you intend to buy stuff for a company, it makes sense to do the registration.
And stuff for the company is a very, very broad for definition, let's put it this way. The common trick, for example, taxi drivers here, they buy the taxis, the cars, enormously expensive one, as one of those things, and they deduct the VAT.
I was going to tell about deducting the VAT from the purchases.
Sorry, please go ahead now.
I'd like to ask a question right now. But you get the, if you, for example, from 10,000, you have to pay 24%, but then at some point you get it back, or how does it work? Like with
Yeah, pretty much. But get it back or get it back. Not necessarily, but I think the upper threshold is somewhere around 16,000 or something. So there's a small progression on how much you're paying. When you get over 8,500, you don't get, in a sense, it back unless you have sold stuff as well. Makes sense.
So the company account, it has to be separate from your personal account.
There's one pitfall to remember. If you have a very short period as your first fiscal year, under 6 months or so, and your turnover then is going to be like, for instance, 5,500 or 6,000 euros, then it's scaled to full 12 months, and so it might you might accidentally go up above the VAT minimum limit without knowing, and then you have to count it backwards. If your first year is, say, 7 months, the profit is multiplied by 12 per 7, and your VAT registration threshold is compared to that figure, not the actual income you make.
That's an interesting information. So yeah, basically you have to establish your company account to do the accounting and bookkeeping. In my case, as a sole trader professional, I use single entry. And what this means that you can either open your account in any Finnish bank separately for your company. There is also a very good service. This is not a commercial, I must warn you, I've been recommended to use it by my friend. And I found it really useful, and that's why I'm kind of sharing it to you. I have no business whatsoever with Holby.com, I just really like the service. And the Holby.com, it provides you a very easy way to online register. You have to be a resident in Finland, you have to have some kind of the residence permit here or a passport. You preferably need to have some kind of account in a Finnish bank in order to register and get the verification. If you don't, then you would have to send scanned copies of your documents. here, which wasn't, it's really good service. I do recommend it to you. It really helps me with the bookkeeping since you can generate the invoices, you can see all the transactions that you've made through the week. It makes you a very nicely looking reports every week so that you can see what your turnover is. So yeah, I really recommend this one. Yeah, so this is a bunch of quite useful links that you might want to take a look to. Most of the information that I've told you about, you can also find them through here. The first one is the general information about the business system. Then the second one is establishing business in Finland for expats. This is a blog post about how to do it, collecting information about legislation, providing you with some tips, giving you the address of some lawyers who actually are doing that. Finnish Patent and Registration Office. This is where everything should start. So basically when you're looking for how to set a toiminimi, you go there. This is a specific page, sole trader, telling about what kind of documents you have to submit in order to be registered. And I'm gonna say in Finland people are quite lucky because they only need 2 forms to be filled and the processing payment to be made, and this is it. You can start working. No bureaucracy here. This is the manual that has been issued in English in 2015 for those like me who don't speak Finnish really. And the Enterprise Finland's basic information about licenses and restrictions. In case if you are setting up a sole trader and it needs some kind of license, because the fields might be specific, you can read about how to obtain the license because those are very separate organizations that provide you the licenses depending on what you're doing. Okay, it's going to be shared in the Facebook group and you might take a look if you want later. And actually I was planning to start filling the form with you right now, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it right now. Let's try.
Там в следующем слайде, наверное, есть, да?
Здесь нельзя открыть.
Откроем.
You mentioned that you want to cover this VAT deduction, negation, or
Basically, if I want to buy a new computer, then I can buy it for my company, and I'm not paying 24% of it.
essentially you do, but then you negate it.
Yeah.
This basically applies for pretty much everything, including tominimis, including companies. So
Yeah.
as long as you're not purchasing things as a person, whatever VAT you see on the invoice, you send it to accountant and then you deduct it from the VAT that you accumulated. So let's say you go to Verkkakauppa, you buy an iPad, there is let's say 100 euros VAT, then I don't know, I sell my services to Oscar and then I charge him the same 600 euros, including the VAT. So in this way, technically speaking, the iPad is going to cost me only 500. Everybody understand?
How do you decide what to do? It's supposed to be somewhere written that you own this part of the company.
It's very simple. Basically, you just pass the receipt to your accounting company and then you say that this is your asset. And then it appears on your balance sheet under the assets.
Okay, how do I get it off the balance sheet?
That's again something that your accountant will do. Or in case of the sole trader, I don't know, probably. No, I mean, essentially you really need to have a balance sheet.
Yes,
if you start
sure.
doing purchases like that. And in this case, the accounting services is not really going to cost you that much per year.
I have a question to that thing. So you have an iPad and it costs, let's say, 1,000. Is it possible, like, for example, that every year, or not every year, but half a year, like 100 euros of that? Did you say 500, or 1,000?
Doesn't really
Okay,
matter.
but like every half a year, like 100 euros is deducted from that asset. Is that possible?
There is this normal depreciation value for most of the assets. So essentially, whatever is ending up as a physical item, on your balance sheet is going to disappear from it automatically in 3 years.
Okay, so you have to cut it for 3 years.
You
Okay.
pretty much don't really need to do anything as long
Yeah,
as you
I
have
see.
the account, and just every year when they're going to give you the statement, it's just going to be decreasing,
Yeah.
decreasing. So essentially, after 3 years, the iPad it doesn't exist anymore. So nobody's.
Okay.
If you still have it working,
Yeah.
well, lucky you.
As a bonus, you can also lease, or let's say, a computer for your company if you have it. You can lease it for your company and pay some kind of a share per year. And the bonus of it is that after 3 years or 5 years, depending on the contract, they're going to replace the machine. If you're leasing a MacBook, you can just get the new one in 3 years and return the old one to the store. And this is a really good option as well. And again, one of the bonuses that Omni company gives you. Okay, now back to the form. Quite simple. You can see the first field here, name of the business. You have to name it somehow. And there is 2 alternatives. The reason why they're here, if for some reason there is already the company existing with exactly the same name, they're not going to accept it. You have to come up with at least one more name that is kind of the backup for you so that you can register it with no problem. We're gonna skip the part where you have to fill the blank as a foreign company, and we're gonna think that we're here in Finland wanting to establish a toiminimi, okay? So the first one is the actual name of the company, 2 alternative names in case if they don't like it for some reason. Then you can see that other company names, those are the ones I have told you about. They are the auxiliary names. Auxiliary names, you assign them to your specific areas of business. Let's say, again, you're doing catering and taxi delivery. Let's say those are 2 separate types of businesses. Probably you would want to call them differently. That's when you're using the auxiliary name, and you're also mentioning the activity that you're using it for. Then the personal details, quite easy. Address information of general use. This is the tricky part. I would say you fill on the mandatory fields, because once they get your email and your phone number, they're gonna just spam you with commercials endlessly.
The trick over there to say that you don't speak Finnish.
Yeah.
That works.
That helped me so much, and this is actually true. So I'm not feeling bad about it. The general information, again, fill the address. I'm still getting so many brochures. I have no idea where I'm gonna get them to, so be careful with that, please. Accounting period. This is the general accounting period, and here on the right hand side you can see that there is the first accounting period. Let's say you're establishing your company on the 8th of October. So your first accounting period, in case if you're a sole trader professional, is going to be from the 8th of October 2015 to the end of December, 31st of December 2016. It's more than 1 year, it's allowed, it's actually required by law that you have to put it this way. And in case if you're a sole trader professional, your normal accounting year would be 1st of January till the 31st of December. Then requesting registration. This is the best part of it, because you don't have to register anywhere. You just have to fill the form. You're gonna get registered automatically in all of those. Trade register, the first one. That's what you're actually paying for. Then a VAT register, prepayment register. Highly recommend. In case if you want to employ people, employer register. Yes, I don't, so I didn't put myself into that. If you're employing people, you have to pay different taxes, separate taxes upon the salary, so it's kind of more complicated.
Sorry, was there a fixed price?
There is
You
no
have to pay-
fixed
you have to-
price, you just have to pay the taxes on the salary and
Monthly
make the
basis?
payments to the
I
pension
can
funds.
comment from the company
Yeah.
perspective. So basically there is fixed social contributions that you need to do on each salary that you pay. This year I think it's 24 point something. This basically it's called DYEL. And then on top of that, there is also mandatory employment contribution. So that is a TVR basically fee. There also you basically just specify amount of money that you expect to pay as a salary, and there is some percentage. But the rule of thumb, whatever salary you're planning to pay, you add easily 30% on top of it. That's essentially going to be your contribution payments.
Yeah, so next, thank you.
Well, I could feel that if you are only going to employ someone very occasionally, you don't need to go to the employment register. If you have a need for only less than was it 12 work days, or during the next year your salaries or wages are totaling for the whole year at a maximum of 1,200 euros or something.
You actually don't have to register at all if you are employing 2 or less people throughout the year, then you don't need to be registered. But again, it's recommended if you employ people.
So in this case,
But
they just wanna,
there is a method for paying the obligatory taxes in both cases.
Yeah. You have to pay the taxes regardless, yeah.
This one, as you can see, it's in case if you are reopening the company, sort of to say, in case if you're establishing and changing the form of incorporation or whatsoever. So we're not going to touch this point. And here, that's a very important part of it. You have to mention the sector of businesses you're going to be working. And that's important part because upon that they're going to decide on your taxations. They're going to decide how much VAT you're going to pay. You can, of course, also put something like general commercial.
so you can make your life difficult and say that you're going to provide food services online.
That's an interesting. I never thought of it, but that's a good
Because
suggestion.
then they don't really know what to put 8 or 24 or something in between.
Yeah. Then the main operating sector, you have to be very specific about it. So if you're doing front-end development, you actually put front-end development. Don't put programming because that's too vague, as an example. You can also delay the starting of the operations of your company if you need to here. And then basically those two fields who can provide tax administration with the information, and those two, if you don't have any accounting outsourced, so you put the information about the company. If you do have them outsourced, then you put the information about the company.
You don't really need to have any contract with accounting firm. It's enough for you to collect all the receipts, all the information.
You don't have, I'm just saying, in case if you have them outsourced and you mention the company, if you don't, then you just basically duplicate the information about yourself. Then next is the third part of the blank, and this is quite tricky and interesting at the same time. You tick yes because most of the times you're not gonna rent separate premises to work with. If you do, then you don't.
In which field?
For example, I am registered in my home in the upper
first one.
field. Yeah. I am a freelancer, so basically I work from home most of the time. So it's the same place where I live is where I work. So I do not have to find any premises or whatsoever. In case if you do, you have to mention it. Then registration for VAT. You tick those two if you want to pay the VAT, and this one if you want to get it deducted from your purchases. Next one, VAT registration as a foreign company, no. Registration only for notification duty, no. VAT registration as a distance seller, no. You don't have to put them here. Applying for VAT liability. No, basically you don't have to put here almost anything. This is again the fields for the specific cases. Exclusion from VAT, well, I didn't have any. But there is, of course, exclusions if you are providing certain types of the services. For most of the services, I would say you would need a license. So usually those are the same ones that are the subject to an exclusion.
The only one from the exclusion of VAT that might apply is the first one, small scale operation, and that's the limit of 8,500 that was presented earlier.
Honestly, I'm not really familiar with the insurance premiums.
Yeah, no.
No,
No.
no, you don't do it.
No, it's if you need to fill that box, you'll know it. That's
Okay,
it.
yeah.
It will cost a couple $100,000.
Again, accounting system, if you're a sole trader professional, you have to use single entry. That's required. It makes your life much easier. Basically, I recommend to do it. Then payroll information, registration as employer, paying wages. No, I don't hire any people. I work on my own. If you do, then tick it. VAT reporting and payment periods. In my case, once you are filling this information in the blank, in the tax office they're gonna calculate, regardless of what you have filled in, they're gonna still calculate whether it's applicable to you, and then they're gonna send you the information about how often you can do the reports. And in my case, it's quarterly because my income is quite low on the legislation scale. So, yeah. Desired length of reporting. Again, it's quarterly to me. If you have a big turnover, that's probably going to be monthly. You tick here yes for the prepayment registration, but be careful to actually make those prepayments. Details for income tax prepayment. Here you can put the numbers that you estimate that you're going to earn through your first accounting year. So,
sorry to interrupt, but if you don't know, put zero. Just it's much better for you to have zero and pay a little bit of extra instead of putting it too much and you have to pretty much pay all of it right now and then claim it after 1 year. So much better to do too small of amounts and then too big.
or this way.
So, sorry, but that's pretty much how it's usually done.
Yeah. See, now I know that I shouldn't have bothered about the calculations, but now I know, thank you. The additional information you provided in case if you want to have some special treatment for your applications, if you want to have faster processing time or some other offers, then you do it. And yeah, this is it, and this is a very short personal data form. You just have to put your name inside and forget about it. And that's how much it takes to set up your own company in Finland. And I was literally amazed by how easily this can be done in this country. So yeah, this is pretty much it. If you have any questions, please ask.
If you want to change any details, then how do you do it? Like
You have to submit one more form, as far as I understand. You have to submit the form U8, I think it's called. You just basically write what was previously and what you want it to be now.
because I believe that on one of the website links you have your data online, and
Yes.
perhaps it's possible to do it online. I haven't done it online, but for example, like if you want to change your registration information, so if you don't want to have the employee register anymore or want to have it, or then if you are thinking of the, your VAT checkbox or something else that you want to take off, I don't know if you can do it online.
I don't think so, because they have to still process it. They have to still think what you're doing. This is.
Okay, so
Why?
that happens in the Vero office.
I think.
You send everything to the patent and registry office.
Yeah.
They send it to the taxation office if it's needed there.
You basically go through the same process
Yeah.
again,
So
but
the address is on the
Yeah.
pretty much the third row of this form. You'll find the address. It's like Postilakari 2000, did
Yes,
you know
no,
somewhere there?
Or even easier, you just walk to the office, just
Exactly,
outside
yeah.
the company, because if you do it over there, they're also gonna check that you actually ticked all the boxes correctly, and what you ticked over there it represents what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not.
Yeah. No, I have a toiminimi now for a few months, and I was thinking also like the one problem is also when you're dealing with the bureaucracy at the tax office. I think there are some maybe issues in the sense like you can do certain things online with the tax. So do you have anything to share on those with this tax office stuff that you have to do the bookkeeping online or?
So basically, without the bookkeeper, what do you do?
Without the bookkeeper,
Or at
you,
least monthly.
well, monthly you just basically keep track of your turnover. Then you produce a report. There is special guidelines on the web page that says how to do it.
Yeah.
Plus, they are sending you from the tax office the form that you have to fill. That basically is the same as the report. You can enclose the report and send to them.
Right.
This is about it, I think.
About the taxation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The perk about sole trader again is that they just see what you have earned and what you have, well, what you have spent, and they don't really care about the flow where it goes.
Are there any clauses about results of your work? So let's say basically you work on something. Do you have all the ownership unless you didn't hire anybody? So basically, how this story with the IDR
Depends on the project, because usually when you're signing the contract, the work I've done, it belongs to the company who I've worked for. So for example, the code I've done for the website, it's Reactor's own.
But in the situation, I know some of our participants have the situation. Let's say that you actually want to work on your product, and the only way for you to bill the customers is to set up some legal form. Essentially, like, let's say you make some service and then you just need to charge money for it, and you don't really want to do it on the personal level because basically then you're just taxed as a person, and there are lots of other complications. So in this case, I suppose the ownership of whatever you produce over there actually belongs to you.
In this case, yes. Well, for example, I've started a browser extension recently, and in this case, it's going to be just mine. You can actually legally assign the ownership to you. You can register a trademark. You can patent the things that you have done. You can patent the design that you have done, like in my case, for example. So there is no problem with that.
Can I use a minute or two?
Sure.
So super. The thing you have to remember if you do toiminimi is that, like you said at the beginning, you will be personally liable for everything that you do. Depending on what actually you're doing, it might be a good thing. In your case, it's probably not a problem. But as soon as you start signing contracts with waivers and stuff where you actually are liable for stuff towards the company, it starts getting, I'd say, really risky in doing it through a toiminimi. I'd say most personal bankruptcies are due to people using toiminimi when they shouldn't have. What I'm trying to say here is if you put up a limited liability company and do your work from behind that, it will be your liability or limited liability company who falls if you are hit with some kind of claim, and not you personally. So if you have an apartment, for example, say a nice apartment in Kamppi for 200,000, and you screw something up in your small freelancing job, it might mean that you lose your actual apartment, and this is something to really keep in mind. I'm not saying that it's the worst thing ever to do it in toiminimi. It's definitely a good idea to do sometimes, but if you think that you will be doing something where you can be held liable for stuff, please do it through an osakeyhtiö. It is harder to set up, I agree with you. If you actually are a Finnish citizen, you can do it in, I think, 1.5 hours, and you'll have a ytunnus in your email. So in that case, it's super easy. Otherwise, it might take a bit more work, but not necessarily more than like a day's worth of work. So it's not that big of a deal. It costs more, and you actually have to buy 2,500 euros to do it. But at that point, at least you are covered in many situations which might bring really bad situations to you otherwise. Taxation-wise, I think the cutoff when it actually is more profitable to run it through an osakeyhtiö or limited liability companies around 35,000 euros a year. So after that, it's actually cheaper for you taxation-wise to run it through an osakeyhtiö. So at that point, you at least should change there.
Just
Another comment from the audience.
Small thing about risks. So I did not follow that path. I was suggested to. I have toiminimi as well, and that was to insure yourself. So you can buy an insurance, and like it will cover. Let's say if you get a claim for 100,000 euros, then insurance company will cover like a huge chunk of it. But of course you have to pay upfront certain fees, and of course you don't know if you will need it. So I'd say, yeah, I agree that toiminimi is like a personal liability, but there are ways to cover your risks as well. So without opening osakeyhtiö, because, yeah.
An example of basically what can go wrong. So let's say you're just doing some software development stuff. So let's say you just deployed an application. So what can happen is that this application might have some bug that would cause a power outage, or something is going to go wrong with the computer that was performing some critical function. And everybody lucky if it's not connected to the human lives, but let's say an elevator goes bust because of the software that you wrote, and you're personally liable for it. Ooh, things can get very, very interesting.
So the conclusion is don't write software for elevators. Open with osakeyhtiö.
And of course, it goes even more complicated the moment you hire a first person, because there you get quite a bit of the liabilities in general. You need to get a bunch of the insurances, but I guess since you are really personally responsible for everything that happens to a person, then even the normal work accidents might cause quite a bit of a trouble.
Actually, the reason why I didn't even think about hiring somebody, even in a distant future, was a funny story. I've been told from my friend that the guys have set up the toiminimi to do the game development. And the guy who actually established it, he hired his friends as developers for the company. And the guy who actually established it got a bill for 2,000 euros in like a month after he has done it. And I was a little bit scared about that because I know it's quite lots of additional responsibility.
That's again where the limited liability company comes in.
So I'm the mini, and I do pay my taxes upfront. What are the complications for my companies in such case?
Yeah, so the question was that if you are not enrolled in the prepayment registry,
Yes.
what does that mean to your employer or the one that you are contracting for? How it works is that if I as a company want to gain the services of a contractor, I should first check the prepayment registry if that company or that toiminimi is actually registered or not. And if I see that he is not registered, the company actually has to withhold your taxes that you would normally pay, and then submit that to their own accounting. So say you're contracting someone for 1,000 euros. Normally you would get that 1,000 euros and then do the taxation yourself. And in this case, you will only receive like 790 whatever is the taxes here. And the company has to do all of the taxation work for you. And usually, or in general terms, that's seen as bad business practice. Obviously, your mileage may vary. You might find companies who are more than willing to do that, since it's just an added cost in their own billing. But usually, it's seen as an extra work for them.
Is there some low limits on the prepayment, or I can put like 10,000 and it will be okay? And
I can't remember.
What about converting a toiminimi later into a company?
Yeah, you can convert a toiminimi to osakeyhtiö. And if it's only you, and you haven't had anyone else touching anything in your toiminimi, I think it's transferred asset for asset. But if you have, I'm not really 100% sure of this, but I think that you might actually be liable for taxes for the whole pot if you fulfill some criteria from the toiminimi. So if you are pretty much expecting to have a large scale business, it makes sense to be a bit proactive in moving into the osakeyhtiö or limited liability companies, or using Finnish terms all the time. Since otherwise it might actually launch personal taxation hit on you just before you move the assets to the osakeyhtiö. But yes, it's possible. I think it might even be these 4 languages went through, or the Y form.
You probably get to keep the number as well.
Yeah, you have the same number.
Anybody is thinking of setting up the toiminimi? If you want, you can just do the pitch and we can brainstorm. Does it make sense for you or not?
No, I have one, so
Who does have one actually?
Who's thinking about one?
Okay.
Who just here for the drinks?
Which drinks?
Exactly. At least now we know that I'm not here for the free beers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that happens very often in startups.
What's the benefit of toiminimi compared to doing business as a private person?
If I understood right, if you get employed as a normal person, or if you launch your own toiminimi and then you contract.
No, I mean I make some projects. I get paid, but I don't have like firm or toiminimi or anything.
Yeah.
So why have a toiminimi?
It might be more convenient for the person who hires you to deal with basically some legal entity rather than a person.
Yeah.
Because let's say that I have a company, we need somebody to help us with some particular thing for just half a year or 3 months. If we hire the person as a temporary worker, as basically with just a temporary contract, that means that the company who hired you is liable to pay all the taxes, all social contributions. There is a cost incurred with the accounting. Basically, like, it's sort of complicated. We need to have a very explicit contract with you, so cost runs up. But if they agree just with the company, then it's very, very straightforward. You're just a supplier. You simply send them the bills towards some agreement that you had with them, hopefully in written. And for them, it's just basically one-way transaction, which also works very nicely because of this VAT. Since they're dealing with you and there is a VAT on top of it, they can negate it from the purchases that they're making and the sales that they're making.
So yeah, that's true. But if your employer is in Finland and it's not registered as an employer in Finland, then that's an interesting. But of course, that's a very exceptional case. But,
I'd say if you want to do just individual projects, 1 or 2 projects, you could use a service like Ukko or Easy System. And then how they work is pretty much that you make an invoice to Reactor or whoever for 1,000 euros. You send it to Ukko. They send it to Reactor as an invoice, and Reactor actually pays Ukko and they pay you as a salary. So in that case, you actually pay all of the taxes. You get the money as a salary, and then that is pretty much invoice income. So that's an easy way to, in individual projects, to not have to do the toiminimi. But if you have more projects, toiminimi is probably the preferable method.
So any part of it is actually Reactor wouldn't work with you unless you have one. This was actually the reason why I started doing all of this stuff. Because I got an offer for the project, but I didn't have the company. I had to set it up while I was doing the project.
I will just add that yesterday there was an article that said that if you're working as a freelancer using Ukko, if you don't have a 6-month contract, then you will lose all your social benefits. So that your government has done something that But that's not also.
All like that, they're around basically the UKA and the Easy guys, they found, let's call it, not really a loophole, but basically a way of operating the way that they operate, because basically essentially they're hiring you, but the state is not getting the same amount of social contributions as they would be getting if somebody else would hire you normally. They both registered, as I don't remember, we talked about it in the last meetup, but there's yet another special form of organization that both of Easy and the Uku guys are right now. But it was working for some time, and of course, probably the guys in government, they'll put some effort to make sure they get all the taxes in
It
full.
was the only way artists and designers were working for I don't know how long, but that was the.
No, I personally know quite a lot of people who are using at least Easy in startups. It was, I knew one startup where a couple of guys were working for a very, very long time just through this Easy. It's easier for the persons who hire them because they have a constant uncertainty will they have the money to pay or not, and it's simpler for the other person as well. So those services they take, if I remember correctly, 4 to 8% of the total bill that you send. So basically you're not really losing that much money.
Yeah.
Also for toiminimi, you can count all these expenses from your taxation.
That is a sign for us to go, I think.
In practice.
Well, okay, I guess that's the time to thank
So I think.
Margarita, thanks a lot for volunteering. Guys, if you have any other questions, just basically stick around.